A question I've been wrestling with for weeks. Do the Milwaukee Bucks matter? And that's the thing. They should matter. They have two top 75 talents on their team, and this team should, by all rights, compete for a championship. But what we've seen in the era of the super teams is that two stars don't make a championship team. You need a full team around these stars. See the Phoenix Suns. Do the Bucks matter? No. They don't. And that's the crazy thing. This team should matter, especially in the East, but they absolutely don't matter. So on one hand, you have Giannis and Dame, who we've seen turn water into wine. But you have players who complement each other, but on the court don't. They haven't figured out how to play together, which is weird because they have a quote unquote great coach. Okay, let's be real. Doc Rivers is not a great coach. You have above average talent with below average coaching. Doc Rivers knows how to coach a great team and make them average. And I don't think this Bucks team is a great team by any means. They're an average team, so Doc is probably coaching his ass off right now. So in the last 10 games, again, perfectly average, 5-5, with all their losses coming to playoff teams. Cavs, Pacers, Thunders, Warriors. They can't beat the playoffs team. Yes, they were able to blow out the Lakers last night with LeBron and Luka and Rui not in the lineup. Sure, that's great. But this team can't win big games. What this tells me that this team can't compete. And look, I applaud the front office. They acquired Kyle Kuzma at the trade deadline, and that should have added some additional offensive firepower, but it hasn't. I mean, they're scoring, but they can't defend consistently. They can't score consistently. Dame is not in the lineup. Giannis is trying, but Giannis has limitations. So what do? So this team being perfectly average, 17th in defense, 12th in offense, with above average talent. So you have an offensive juggernaut in Giannis and Dame, and they can't get above 12th in offense. You have Giannis, who's great on defense, and so is Brook Lopez on most nights, 17th in defense. So something's not working, right? Are they undermanned or they just underperform? The answer is both. This team, as currently constructed, is terrible. They really haven't put the right pieces around Dame and Giannis to really compete. And on top of that, their two stars don't know how to play with each other. At least this year, they seem like they actually like each other. Last year, they seemed like they just kind of tolerated each other. I think for both of these players, they like the idea of playing with each other. I think like the fans, like myself, like the idea of Dame and Giannis pick and roll all day. But the reality of playing with each other, I don't think either one of them has gotten comfortable with that fact. This organization also is still reeling from that Jrue Holiday trade. I think they thought Dame was the piece they needed because we saw prior to Dame is that this team would go offensively ice cold and they would have to play perfect defense and get timely buckets just to compete. But the problem is when you take out your defensive stopper, now you don't have anyone to play perimeter defense. Those close games that they just needed 1 or 2 buckets to stay in and win, now those games aren't close anymore. So now they have to try to outscore everyone. And this team isn't built to outscore anyone. They don't have an offensive identity. They don't have a defensive identity. So what's the best case for this team? I mean, honestly, hope for a free fall by the Knicks and pray they could jump into the 3rd seed. Because the only team this Bucks team can beat in the playoffs is maybe the Pistons. And not because they're a better team, it's just circumstances dictate that a young team like the Pistons, the lights are too bright for them in their first time in the playoffs. A talented Pistons team with 0 playoff experience versus this team with playoff experience, yes, they could win. But will they win? They could probably blow that too. They will stay in that 5th or 6th seed. They will play the Pacers and they will lose. And then questions will have to be asked. What's next for this team? Do they blow it up? Do they try to add one more piece? Or do they just try to stay status quo and say, hey, this year these circumstances happened and that's why we didn't win at all and next year it'll be better? Or maybe, just maybe, they go into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes.